Hello, so this evening we are going to take the Model 17, the Beechcraft Model 17 made by Coronado in Microsoft Flight Simulator for a trip across the northeastern part of Australia from the Whitsunday Coast airfield up to Shute Harbour, over to Hamilton Island and then down to Lindeman Island. So I thought it might be a fun little trip to do with this aircraft. So we're going to do a little bit of radio navigation along the way just to keep our heading true as we fly out towards Shute Harbour, but it should be mainly VFR to be honest. So we'll fly for this valley and then navigate our way in visually. So the weather looks really lovely, as you can see. So we should have a nice flight. It's about I've set the time in the simulator actually, so we could actually rewind it and make it a bit earlier. So this is 7 in the morning. If we wind it back even further, say it's 10 past 6 in the morning, that looks nice, doesn't it? Okay, so if we go and get inside the aircraft, let's just go and make sure to begin with our controls are working, and they are. Throttle and mixture is working. So mixture to fully rich, propeller all the way in. We'll just move the yoke out of the way so we can configure things down here. Okay, so master switch is over here. I'm just trying to reacquaint myself with where the switches and levers and things are in this aircraft. Okay, so we move the fuel to main, go for the center option on the lower lever for the fuel, and we want the beacon light on, so we've got rotating beacon light here, got nav lights there, we'll turn those on as well. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to start, so we move ignition. I'm just trying to remember, has this got fuel shut-off valves? No, it just uses these, doesn't it? So ignition is ready. Obviously we would have shouted out the window. So engine's up and running. Let's just check the volume levels so you can hear me over the engine. Yeah, that's fine. Engine's remarkably quiet from inside, isn't it? We sit outside. It's quite a thundery kind of sound. So if you look at the airfield, we're going to taxi out and do an intersection takeoff from halfway along the runway. If we have a look at the wind, there's quite a lot of wind though. So I'm just going to show ourselves on the map temporarily. So yeah, that still makes sense for an intersection takeoff. We will be into the wind. Okay, so we're going to do this just by looking at the map and navigating without seeing where we are. Focuses the mind somewhat onto actually using the instruments instead of relying on little nav map. Okay, so engine's up and running. We need to go and turn the avionics on now. So if we go and look down here, we've got the avionics master switch. We will be using the nav radio. So let's go and set the barometric pressure as well to calibrate the altimeter. So we're leaving this VOR station here, PN, what does PN stand for? Can we get details about it? Proserpine 11370 anyway, and we're going to be following a 33 degree track from 113.70. So 11370, transfer that to active. The nav instrument is up here and we want 33 degrees on the Omni bearing selector. So that's about there maybe, so let's just line up with it to see. Yeah, it's there or thereabouts, should be good. We don't have distance measuring as far as I'm aware, so we'll just have to go by eye and see where we end up. Okay, so flaps to takeoff position. Going to go around the Mustang that seems to have sunk into the ground for some reason. It's rather interesting. Oh, and the van has... I turned the ground traffic back on, and yes, look, we're being pursued by a kamikaze van immediately. They really don't learn their lesson, do they? So we're going to make our way out to the runway and get on our way. So I don't have any custom scenery installed, so it's going to be a rather basic version of the Whitsunday Islands, but hopefully it will still be quite pretty. Just gently taxi out. Let's just go and double check around the cockpit that we haven't forgotten anything. Don't think we have. Got plenty of fuel. Flaps are set for takeoff. It's all looking rather good. Okay. Ready to catch the plane as soon as the tail wheel comes up. There it goes. This really is a bit of a box of frogs on the runway. So gently pulling back and we're airborne. I've not actually flown it in strong wind before, so this is a bit of a learning experience for me as well. So we want to be flying about 10 degrees in order to intercept this angle. So we can see over here we're not flying 10 degrees at the moment. So if we turn left gently, remembering that the heading on here is reversed, so we'll head for... So let's go for just north, and that should pull in the needle. With a little bit of luck. So yeah, here comes the course deviation indicator. So we turn back to 35 degrees to hopefully agree with that. A bit more. Okay, so if you have a look at the map, what we're actually doing here is we took off that way, we've come back on, and we're on this track now. But if you remember, we said there's this shallow area past the hills, so we'll go to the left. So there are those hills, there's that shallow area. So if we go around the edge of the hills, that will guide us towards Shute. Was it Shute Harbour? Yes, Shute Harbour Airport. So I'm just going to trim out the elevator. There we go. So keeping an eye on the vertical airspeed as I do that. So somebody told me, it's rather handy, isn't it? You can click on the support post and it disappears, so you get a much nicer view, which is very cool. And we can put the yoke back now. We're not really too worried. We were only using the nav radio as a bit of a guide to go to set off in the right direction. So flaps are up. We haven't put the gear up yet. I keep forgetting this aircraft has retractable gear. Seeing as we're in Australia, we've got a kind of a fetching yellow. There's not a canary yellow version, unfortunately. It's kind of this burnt yellow. So, Obviously we picked up airspeed with the undercarriage coming up, which gained lift, and therefore the trim no longer held us level. But we've just retrimmed and we're looking good. So if we scoot forwards in the cockpit. So let's have a look at the name of some of these hills. So we're heading towards this gap, but the hills on the left side are the Dryanda Forest Reserve. On this side it's the Whitsunday's Great Walk is around these hills apparently. So let's have a look if we come out over here. So these are the Whitsundays, I guess. Gorgeous weather for the flight. Can't complain. Would love to visit the Whitsunday Islands at some point. Have a look from outside. Absolutely whistling along, going quite fast. Flight Simulator is doing its usual stellar job with the weather, isn't it? It's really quite lovely, like a chocolate box. Obviously as we get closer to the edge of these hills that wind will start pitching us around, but because we're over the flat ground here it's relatively smooth going. Okay, so we can see there's a bit of a lump there, so we can tell that's going to be Cannon Vale, I imagine, with Pigeon Reef off the end. And then this piece here is Airlie Beach, and then there's a headland, and then in between those spits of land is the entrance into the approach for Shute Harbour. So which way is the wind? So that supports perfectly an approach. Let's have a look at this. The wind speed on the ground, 140-20 knots. That's really fast. We're near the limits of the aeroplane really, but luckily all of these runways are, or most of the runways are in line with the wind, which helps us enormously. Okay, so just in between these two headlands we should find Shute Harbour. Jump back across to the pilot side. Because it's so early in the morning, should we have a look and see if we've got some lights for inside? Dome light, panel lights. Oh, we haven't put the generator on. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Okay, so we should be able to turn right here and find the airstrip. So let's cut the throttle back. Yeah, there's the airstrip hiding away in the background. So gear down. Remember, we've got that strong headwind, so our speed over the ground is probably 20 knots less than we are reading on the indicated airspeed. So this is it. This is coming into Shute Harbour. But these houses are expensive on the water down here. Hopefully won't get too much turbulence as we come in over these ridges. Starting to move around a little bit, but hopefully not too much. Okay. Bit of a bounce. Get some airspeed back, get the undercarriage back up. And we're on our way again. Okay, so leaving Shute Harbour, we want to navigate 12 miles, 105 degrees. So we turn to 105 degrees and fly towards Hamilton Island. Out across the bay. There's 100 degrees. So let's just get this trimmed out. So we're heading towards these two small islands that we can see in the middle of the bay. Can we locate them? Or maybe it is one island with two hills on it, which would make more sense. So there's a small outcrop here. So that's this. Then there's the island, and there's an island next to it, and an island behind that. And it's on the island behind, so that's the one with the runway on it. Okay, so let's stop climbing. We're plenty high enough to make the crossing now. 215 knots. This thing shifts. It is so fast. It's a funny looking thing, isn't it? Very stable. It's probably because it's quite a heavy lump. So we're heading out across this harbour. We're heading more, if we do a distance measurement on here, we're heading more this way towards that island. So if we turn in before we get there, we should see the airstrip. Yeah, so if we come in across here, if we just draw another line on, we should be good. So just before we get here, we turn right. Yeah, we can see the runway over there, look. Very good. Should have a look at that from outside. So as we get over this natural harbour in here, we'll cut the engine, drop the gear, drop the flaps, and do another touch and go. If you have custom scenery, there's quite the tourist resort here on Hamilton Island. Okay, let's come off the engine now. Look at the airspeed drop. So for all of their efforts to make this as sleek as possible, it's still a big heavy lump when it comes down to it. Oh, we got a bit of rain. Nothing too serious though. Okay, gear down. Should watch it coming down. Flaps. So just above 100 knots at the moment. We'll just pull that back a little bit. It's surprising this runway's bigger than it looks. They do take commercial traffic into here. Because it's windy, look, there's a bit of a swell on the water. Flight Sim does that very, very well, I have to say. Should try and do this from outside, just to see if it's a bit more interesting, isn't it? Might have to jump inside to wrestle to keep on the runway centre line, but I'm not very good at doing this from the outside view normally, and depending on lighting conditions, we might not see the shadow underneath the aircraft. And that's why it bounces, look. It really doesn't like settling. So we'll go back inside because it's much easier to hold a straight line on the rudder from inside. So slowly removing the flaps. Gear back up. And climbing away. So the direction we'll be looking for to get to Shute Harbour, sorry, to what was our final destination, to Lindeman Island, is going to be 131 degrees. So let's have a look from outside as we climb out. I mean, the rendering of the waves and so on in Flight Sim is just spectacular, isn't it? Okay, what was the direction? 131 degrees. So we're looking on the compass, we're about 140 at the moment, so we need to turn left to get to 131. Round about there. Okay, so let's have a look at the features along the way. So there's this Coal Island Reef, which we're going to pass over, which is here. Then there's Little Lindeman Island, and then the grass runway in the centre which isn't incredibly long. It's only 2,000 feet long. It's towards the second half of the island, so we fly in directly over this side, and then we should get visibility of the runway. And because we've got a headwind, that's going to help us to remain slow. So let's see how we get on. So this is the Lindemann group. So if we keep a lookout down here, we should see the grass runway. Hopefully. It's not great visibility today. Right, is that it in here somewhere? I think it is. And I may have just lost the engine. Oops. That could have ended seriously badly, couldn't it? Just had to switch fuel tanks there. The Staggerwing, or Model 17, has many fuel tanks, which can be a bit of a nightmare for those starting out. Okay, so gear down. We may do a circle around. No, I think this is the runway we can see just in front of us. Visibility isn't helping us today. So flaps down. Yeah, here we go. So it's quite forbidding. We're going to have to come down in amongst the trees. Not that slowly, hey. That turbulence is wicked. Trying to remain above the tree line. Yeah, now we're down over the flat ground. It's not too bad, he says, as it tries to drop a wing. And the rain is coming. There we go, and we're down. So where do we taxi to here? I guess over to those buildings over there. Keep away from the runway in case anything else comes in. Should we park on the chalky area here? Okay, parking brake is on. Mixture pull back. Engine is off. Ignition is off. That off, avionics off, lights off, and a master switch off. And we'll just go and double check. Yeah, everything else is looking good. Propeller condition can come back. There we go. So that was the Model 17, the Beechcraft Model 17 Staggerwing, flying around the Whitsunday Islands. So it's a great place to go and do general aviation flying, to go and explore some of these islands. And if you're quite adventurous, about another 40 miles out, you can go and visit the Great Barrier Reef, which is always good fun. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon.